Mark, Voice of Job Seekers. If you may follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter, is to talk about a couple articles that came out recently. One was on TechWire Asia, and if you go to my page on LinkedIn and on Twitter, you'll see those shared on my timeline. And ResumeLooters is something that happened in Asia, not in America, but I think it's very important to talk about this because this is something that's going to come. Things start abroad often, and then it gets more involved and a little bit more sophisticated as it gets here when it comes to scams. Now, ResumeLooters, what happened, and to give you the short of the article, is that in reading from the articles, the job scams have become a constant problem for those looking for jobs. We know that ResumeLooters have stolen databases from job portals. Now, this doesn't mean that the ResumeLooters is the name of the scammers. It means that there are people hacking job portals to get private information, or what should have been considered private information, especially when you have job seekers who are filling out applications, or they have resumes on files and they're getting that information, or scammers are getting access to that information. I think that's important because you expect that when you trust those sites, as they say that they keep that information private, but once they get hacked, then that becomes no longer true. And it causes for either job seekers to do something a little bit different, and employers or employer sites do something different. Employers may have to do something a little bit different if this starts happening a lot more often, especially if you consider if the job portals are not being trusted, probably companies may have to host their own jobs in their own site, and that way they can control the security a little bit more. But I think we can take a little bit deeper what it could mean for job seekers. For instance, that if you're a job seeker that in the past 10 years is the first time you've put a resume through, you're used to putting your address on the resume. So therefore, you're giving away your personal address information on that resume, which could make you more vulnerable than the person that's giving just the phone number and email address. However, we have to look at how vulnerable those who are giving just the address and the phone number as well, especially if you're giving your private phone number. That is a vulnerability, because think about what you use that phone number for. And I want you to think a little bit deeper than just giving it to people and just putting on applications, but you're also using that phone number for Cash Apps and Zelle for a lot of us. And that's how we transact business. And we also use that in some cases to enter certain portals online. Now, of course, the best of them will have the best security at all, but believe me, if it happened in Asia, it's going to happen in the US at some point. And we'll talk about millions. And we're not talking about just they're going after small little job portals. We're going to probably see that happen, if not once, twice, 3 times, to a large job portal, unless they're also ringing the alarm and they're telling people to be careful online and figure out a way to convey how people can make their information even more private. Because as a job seeker now, you're going to have to take some precautions as well. That means you shouldn't be using like a private email address. And it's true for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is so that you have a dedicated email address for your job search information. And hopefully you're not transacting money through that, because then you become vulnerable at that particular point, as opposed to if you're just using that just to transact or to communicate in relation to your job search. That's going to be really important. But your phone number, something to consider is using a third-party number like a Google number. So that way, if it's exposed, there's no way they could track it to your phone number, although anything is possible at this particular point, because hackers are doing, and they're hacking into all types of gateways and portals and what's supposed to be private. So I want you to really consider those things as we move forward. But I want to just talk about and make you alert to that those things are coming. And the second thing that's coming, and I was talking to a friend of mine about college students and trying to talk about what's relevant to them. And one of the things that I brought up. I said scams are relevant to everybody. And almost in the same conversation came out this article from Purdue. Purdue University are experiencing as a university job scams through their students using their email. In other words, they're getting job scams, they're getting fake job offers. Purdue students are getting fake job offers. And let me just read some of this so that I can so that I'm not making things up as I think about it. And I'm telling you, so students are being targeted with emails that falsely advertise positions at BNW or online research assistants or internships, and often promote remote opportunities and high salaries. The emails often use the real names of PNW faculty and staff. So it isn't just Joe Schmo using a fake name. They're using real profiles of faculty and staff to help advertise these jobs. Of course, because the FTC has already reported that the most frequent scams are happening to the younger people. Now, the older people, it costs them more money. They're the ones who are getting scammed for more money, but it's happening more frequently to younger people. In fact, I told this story and I posted about it online a little while ago, a few months ago, about how a young man was scammed. He wasn't even 30 yet, but he was scammed, a job scam, by the scammer using a real company on LinkedIn, even though it wasn't through LinkedIn, but it was a real company, a Big Four company, I should add, and even one has been talked about news in recent months, and used two other people who were actually staffers. Now, one, if you go look at their profile, because when he contacted me, I went and looked at the profile and saw, okay, this person is a legitimate HR professional. And the other person was a legitimate person in the company, but I didn't see logic of them hiring their names, but their names were mentioned in the communication with this person. And one thing I suggested was that they try to contact that person to see if they're recruiting for that position, because this contact that the scammer had made, it didn't make sense to why would they contact that person who really didn't have the experience. And besides that, if you go to the site of the company, they tell you exactly what their process is. And the scammer kind of had a half-witted explanation for it, saying that, oh, this is a special situation, but the company's really explicit on their site about how to hire. That's where it should have been a tip-off. But this person saw my post and was intrigued because he felt intuitively he couldn't nail it down what it was that made him suspect that there was something not right with it. But fortunately, he wasn't scammed out of any money, but he was scammed out of his time and his hopes that he'd be picked up. Fortunately, he was able to get a job a short time later. But all that to being said is scammers are using real people and real companies, and even something that might be close to the truth, but not really the truth or the real thing. So the kind of masqueraded angels of light, giving you hope, saying qualify, you could pay this, and you could work at home. And even some of that verbiage, we could argue whether that's truly something that a company would say, but all that said is that there's a lot of things that's going on as far as scams. Everybody needs to be on guard. Everyone. Thank you very much for watching me.